Just rock and roll. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Rule Zero. Joined today by, the usual suspects, Rollo Tomasi, John from Modern Life Dating, Troy Francis, and Ryan Stone will be back shortly. I was just grabbing a drink. Welcome, everybody. How y'all doing today?
Good. Man, what a week. Let me tell you.
Yeah, there's always something fun going on.
Boy, like all the
spaces,
shit that's going on with Jeff Bezos right now and all this stuff. I don't know if anybody saw that. Well, I know John has.
He's getting sued by his girlfriend's boyfriend or something like that?
Yeah. No, he's getting sued by Lauren Dirty Sanchez's brother, because apparently the leak wasn't the Saudi Arabian hackers. It was actually his girlfriend who she decided to take him to her ex-boyfriend's retirement party.
Whoa, hold on a second. So this woman that he left his wife for is trying to run him through to milk him for some cash?
Well,
or is it woman's boyfriend?
Well, what's happening is she's I would say I feel pretty confident in saying she's the catalyst that broke him and Mackenzie Bezos up. First of all, she has a history of doing this. She's definitely a predatory female. I mean, by every sense of the word, she is a predatory female. And so she's done this with some other
they're billionaires.
Mostly athletes, but this guy he's the first like big game she's ever brought down, I think. And I mean, it's Jeff Bezos. The guy is, you can yell at me till you're blue in the face about how he's an alpha and he's the richest man in the world, whatever. But the dude is painfully blue pill, and you can see it in his choices and the things that he's doing right now. But she used to go out with this guy. What is it? Tony Gonzalez? Who is
I think he
the
was a
tight
baseball
end
player
guy?
or something, or a football
was he
player?
the base? No, I think he's a tight end.
Tight end for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, and he just retired. She wanted to go to that, and Jeff Bezos is like, okay, babe. And
like Troy and I are looking at you talking about tight ends. Like, I don't know.
It's a position in football, for crying out loud. And yes, that's why I'm wearing my San Francisco hat today. But like, so she goes out to that. I guess what had happened is there was supposedly a leak of all of the texts from himself to her, including nudes, dick pics or whatever from Jeff Bezos to her
on the internet. That's hilarious.
And
no
so,
one needs
yeah.
to see that.
And so what happened was she actually sent those texts to her brother. Her brother, on the other hand, went and took those and probably sold them to the highest bidder, most likely like paparazzi or whatever else. And so now I think he was going to sue the brother, and now the brother is countersuing, I guess, for defamation of character, for his great character, his stunning character.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. This is so everybody goes, well, what's all this bullshit about? Well, here's the thing is this is where
the manosphere's not so bad.
This is where the blue pill gets you. This is where, if you don't kill the beta, if you don't kill that off, and the more money you have, the more you think, oh, I'll have lots of money, I don't have to worry about it, I'm insulated. No. It's up here.
Sort of echoes the Meghan Markle thing a little bit, doesn't it? You know, we're seeing this predatory
That's
thing
another one.
happening.
Oh, and then the Amber Heard thing that John sent me with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp and the fight that they had. And I'm going to do, just so everybody knows, I'm going to do a show on like the commonalities between these two stories here. But the long and the short of it is that this is a guy who everybody says, oh, he's the sexiest man alive, right? People Magazine, sexiest man alive, still very, very blue pill, and wants to rationalize his way back into her good graces. And it's like, that is like a hallmark of blue pill beta thinking.
Was that the one you guys sent me where she's laughing at him when he's saying to stop abusing him? She's laughing and punching him or something?
Yes. Yeah. Amber Heard, who also, by the way, was a part of Elon Musk's soft harem for a while, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. What a wonderful way to put that.
Yeah. Soft harem.
Soft harem. Come on.
Hey, I just don't understand.
At least he's got the. Well, I mean, now he's fucking that goth chick. So
she's prego.
She's knocked up. They got a baby coming. He's got like
he can pick
5 or 6 now in total.
Beta male epidemic is real, man. I just don't like. I don't know about you. Like, don't you like Troy? I know you could relate to this. Don't you get like tired of the girls after you bang them like 5 times? After 5 times, I'm like, get out of here. I don't care how hot they are.
Yeah, well, you do, and it does seem very odd, the goth chick that he's with, that he's sort of hung on to her, unless it was like an accident and that he's sort of been forced into it. But it seems odd that they're sort of now forming this sort of
They've been
ongoing.
together for a while now, at least, but
yeah.
over a year. Yeah.
After 5 to 8 times me banging him, I'm like, I need something new. Like, I'm done. Like, get out of here.
Mm.
I don't
People
know.
were saying that that Elon Musk was smoking weed with Joe Rogan because he wanted to look cool for his goth girlfriend.
Should look cool for the stock.
That guy will
That's
do
just
anything
what
for
I hear.
girls, right? Hey guys,
You would think-
just quick shout out here on the super chat. Chris Von Erich, thanks, dude. He's saying looking forward to a great show. The Super Bowl's this weekend. Are the 49ers in it? I'm not a
it's
football
Niners.
fan. I wouldn't know
Niners
the
are in it, and it's the Chiefs. Niners and the Chiefs. So
All right.
I have been a San Francisco fan for a very long time. If you live in this area, like Northern California or like Northern Nevada, there are two teams that sometimes three teams that you like. San Francisco has been just the worst for a very long time. To see them in the Super Bowl is just like a gift.
Man, you're gonna be disappointed when they lose tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know that girl, that nerd girl, Mackenzie. She's like part of the crew for the Masculine Geek guys.
Yeah.
She is a Chiefs fan, so we're gonna be like,
Wait, there's a
throwing
masculine geek
insults
girl?
at her. Yeah, Masculine Geek girl. That's Mackenzie.
There's always a fan club
There's always
for
a fan
every
club.
group. Even
Well, then
even
why
the
does
big
ours
cows
get
have
dancing
fangirls.
sushi and some lame shit? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, looking for someone to guide them.
Hang on, we got a
Well,
super
after I
chat
found
here
out
from
that,
Chris Baker, dedicated to Kobe Bryant, the Lakers, Terry Jones, Monty Python, rest in peace. What do you guys think of David Dita? What's up with David Dita?
David Dita.
Well,
is,
that book.
I'll
is,
let you guys say.
That book is okay. The way, what's it called? The masculine.
Way of the Superior Man.
The way of the superior man. Yeah, I mean, I read
Oh,
that
that
years
guy.
ago. And
I
it's
thought
okay.
David Dita was a trance artist or something like
No,
that.
you're-
he wrote that book. That book has got the one piece.
You're
of
thinking
advice,
David D'Angelo.
Oh, okay.
the one piece of advice in that book
I
that
don't
I think is good is every man must have a mission. That was kind of the main thing that I
Yeah.
took from it. That was one of the first dudes that I read saying that. I think that was good. I suspect if I went back and read it now, it's fairly blue pill stuff or purple.
I found
pill
it pretty
stuff, certainly.
woo-woo. That whole way of the
That's-
superior
Yeah.
man got a little woo-woo for me. I'm like, okay.
There's
I
another-
already know
that's a
Jack
lot of crap.
Donovan, so I don't got room for another one. I'm sure he's
Yeah.
fine, though.
There's another book by him about sex being a way to get into the spiritual, which I've got on my Kindle. I haven't read yet. I suspect it's going to go pretty woo-woo, to be honest. So yeah, I like his stuff about being the best you can be and having a mission. But beyond that, I think he's a little bit woolly for my taste.
All right, gentlemen, let's hop into today's topic. Before we do, thanks to the super chats. The chat in my channel is always closed off to members only. It's just straightforward. I don't want to deal with playing whack-a-mole. So if you like watching this stuff, I do about 5 to 8 or 9 broadcasts per month. You can get in the chat at any time, throw a question there, whatever you want. So that's open if you guys want to hop in. The topic we chose today is your network is your net worth. We've all seen in our lives associating ourselves with people that are lower caliber. They're kind of zeros. They don't get great results. Mostly they tend to lose at what they do. And we all know that, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I mean, this applies to every area in life, women, business networking, friendships, everything that you do, places you choose to travel to and events you choose to attend. We've all had an interesting week kind of behind the scenes. What we've seen here with some people that we'll just not talk about it too much, but if you followed us on Twitter
Black
somewhere, you would
belts
have
and
seen a couple
hamburger
posts.
helper over there.
Or-
Clean up my
Basically,
house, Kevin.
Bezos minus the $5 billion.
Yeah, you can watch John's channel. He did a couple of live broadcasts this week. But gentlemen, your network is your net worth. I mean, who wants to start with that? When did you guys all first? Let's start with this question. When did you first come to realize that if you spend time with losers, then you're going to become a loser, and if you spend time with winners, then you'll start to get better
I'll
results? out of
chime in
life?
first here, real quick. So,
go.
look, 2018, at the end of 2018, I had realized there's this one player I used to roll with in Tokyo. He's mediocre. He's not that good, but he always had something to fucking complain about, whether it be Trump and putting the children in immigration camps, and then he would always get worked up about stuff, and he would always be so just there was a problem for every solution, and it was very draining to be around him. And I was kind of friends with him out of pity. I used to do that thing, I'll just be friends with this guy. He needs help, whatever.
But he's a good guy.
Yeah, and so he's Canadian too. God bless him. And in 2019, my New Year's resolution was I'm done. If anybody's negative, if I feel tired after I'm hanging out with them, right? Any of that
That's a good
stuff,
indicator.
absolutely, I am fucking done with these people. 2019 was the best year of my life financially. I mean, the whole 9 yards. Like I got rid of these people. You have to protect yourself from these energy vampires, these losers, quite honestly. So, like, I don't care if they've been your best friends since your high school. You have to make a choice. Do you want to get to where you want to be goal wise, or do you want to sit around and play nanny for these people, or be the good guy? And it's a harsh reality. But like I said, after I did that, 100%, it was the best year of my life. And I'm even more stringent of the people who hang around me right now. I actually made a wall in my room, and it has like all my big 5 for 2020 of all the people I want to like.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a to kill list or something.
No. Like people I want to,
That's on the other side.
Talking about today's episode, which is, your network is your net worth. This is my network that I've created for 2020. I say 2020 is a year of plenty, and I'm trying to get to the next level financially. And all the guys in there, they at least make $150,000 or more. And these are the guys that I'm going to make an effort to reach out to, either spend time with physically and or digitally, because you got one shot at this life, man. There's no magical afterlife. There's nothing like that. And if you want your stuff right now, you got to go for it. If you want to have game, you need to roll with dudes that have game. You want to have money, you need to roll with dudes that have money. You want to be fit, you got to hang with dudes that are fit. That's just the end all be all. There is no negotiating with that whatsoever. That's all I got to say about that.
I had one. I wasn't sure if I should share this, but
Go ahead,
it was
Ryan.
when I came home from college, my first year. My stepdad was at home with a bunch of his buddies that he's known since forever. The one guy's name was Inbred Blaine. Don't ask me how he got the nickname. I never asked. They were smoking crack in their house, telling the stupidest story. I'm not going to bother with it here because we got monetization to worry about. And it clicked on me right then. There was him, and out of his group of 5, 4 of them had either committed suicide or done drugs and killed themselves with it. Long story. And I realized at that point that he had surrounded himself with losers, and they was actually they watched him ruin my family's businesses just from being losers. And so I just intuitively figured out, like, keep idiots away from me. I don't care if they're rich. Like, John, good for you on that. For me, I don't care if they're rich. I don't care if they're pop. Like, all that stuff doesn't matter to me. Just the kind of guy that I know is not going to kill everybody around him. And it was that first 2 things I learned that day was that lesson, and that crack smells very sour, and I don't like it. I actually know more about crack than Ed Lattimore, so it's pretty impressive on my part. But yeah, that was how I learned it. It's not a very feel-good story, I'll grant you that.
On a similar theme, if you get into sort of the recovery sort of circle in terms of addictions and people trying to get off addictions and staying off alcohol and things like that, what I've found is that some people take to it very well, and they go on to build very successful lives, and they become they become wealthy, they become they have relationships, they build themselves up, and other people just don't. And the people that don't, there's an expression that goes around which is stick with the winners. And I think it's exactly what we're talking about here. And I mean, there's a guy that I've known for probably 10-15 years. I see this guy around in London the whole time, and every time you speak to him, you say, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" And there's always a problem going on. He'll be like, "Oh man, well, things are really tough at the moment. It's like blah blah blah." Every single time you start a conversation with this guy, he says the same thing. And no surprise, and I'm sure he's got other issues going on, but he's pretty much in the same position he was 15 years ago in terms of his life, in terms of his income, in terms of his social circle. And so when you spend too much time with guys like that, like John's been saying, they're energy vampires. They suck the energy out of you. And it's really corrosive to be around people like that for too long. You need to stick with people who've got positive energy, who are pushing forward and making something out of themselves.
I used to, back in my 20s, I used to run with some real losers. That's easy to do when you were in the circles that I was in, which was like musicians and things like that. Of course, I've been an artist and a musician for a long time, really. But you know how they always have that stereotype of like the starving artist or the tortured artist or the starving musician or whatever. And there's a reason for that, because a lot of them are that way, or they that's so, and in some cases that makes them really good artists, but it doesn't make them very good human beings at some time. So for every really super successful artist, there's probably 1,000 other guys who are just sort of like spinning their wheels. And what taught me, I mean, you mean besides from June unto now, what taught me,
tell me about it,
about winners and losers is when I got into the alcohol industry. When I was working, I transitioned from being an art director and getting into brand management from gambling and gaming. I used to work at casinos and stuff. And I used to work in the marketing, and I used to have to deal with a lot of personalities. And one of the reasons I went and studied behavioral psychology when I was in school was because I wanted to learn to deal with these people. And then it struck me, going from the people that I had to work with in gaming to the people that I worked with in liquor. And liquor, you are either a winner or a loser, and the losers don't stick around that long. So if you aren't like 100% committed to whatever brand that you're at, and I don't know if anybody knows how these things work, but there are certain brands or up and coming brands. I'm sure you guys have heard of a brand called Tito's Vodka. And Tito's Vodka, I used to know that guy back in 2000. Yeah, it is good stuff. I remember when he was hustling his ass off he was at all these martini fests. He was just this local guy. It was like handcrafted vodka or whatever they wanted to call it. It was supposed to be, the play was this, his branding was this. It was that it was like a microbrew of vodka, and which is just complete bullshit. But like that was his game. He stuck with it, and look where he is now. So, I mean, it's like the number one vodka, at least in college circles right now, is Tito's Vodka. Let's go get some Tito's. And I saw that and I said, you know what? I watched these guys, and I watched the guys who were the players and the guys who were just simply the losers. There were guys who built a brand with the hope that somebody was going to buy that brand, and then they would go take their $1 million and go live happily ever after. And so there's the people like Rich always says this, like, there's the people who are like playing to win, and then there's the people who are just like surviving or just
playing not to lose.
Playing not to lose. Yeah. But like there's people who just fucking give up. But then there's like the people who like stay on top of their game. And that's when I kind of realized, like when I made that transition to working in the alcohol industry, and I've been doing that for like almost the last 20 years, really. When I made that, I encountered a lot of really type A personalities, and these were guys who all played to win. Most of them, like the guys I was working with, the brands that I was representing. And that changed something in me, because prior to that, I was just like, okay, do my job, do the work, pick up check. That was my mode, was just thinking in those terms. And I had people saying, we need you to come up with these ideas. And so what I was doing was I was an idea guy, and I was coming up with ideas for brands and flavored vodkas and new brands of whiskeys. And I was the one who was coming up with the ideas, but yet these are the guys who are making all the fucking money. Yeah. And I was like, I'm giving you like this brilliant idea, and they're happy to have it and take off with it. And it was right about then that I started reading a book called The 48 Laws of Power. And that sort of opened my eyes to seeing people who are dedicated to putting a dent in the universe, becoming something more. Like I was saying on my last podcast, I was talking about content and discontent. And that's where I kind of realized that there's no such thing as contentment. For a human being, we're not built to be content. We get something, we achieve something, we get our Medal of Honor, we get whatever it is that we're doing, we get our degrees and everything. And you know what? 6 months after that, you're like, what's next? What do I got to do now? How do I solve this problem? How do I make this bitch happy? Right? How do I do all of this stuff? Because now what I thought was going to bring me happiness has not brought me happiness, or it did for a while, but it just escalated me up to a different level. And now I want something more. Well, you're either the kind of guy who you're okay with just how things are, or you're trying to build something a little bit better. You're trying to make something else. And that requires competition. That requires you to get into a state of competition. Now, I've been a competitor in like fencing, and just like, when I was in college, I used to do fencing tournaments. I'm a fairly competitive guy, but nowhere near as competitive as these guys that I was working with in the liquor industry. And I had a lot of good mentors right then. It was sort of at the right place at the right time. I just turned like 32 right then. And that's when I was building my castle, man. I was building my empire at then, and I didn't realize that that's what I needed to do, because in my 20s, all I wanted to do was party. All I wanted to do was get pussy. All I wanted to do, I think if I would have had the same mindset that I have now, or since I was about 30, 32, somewhere, if I had that same mindset when I was 22, I would probably be a professional musician, because I would have treated it as a business. I would have focused on it as a business.
I want to say something too, like, a big part of, like, it's not that right now I'm just chilling with people to like be rich. It's just like my goal right now is finances. So I want to hang around people who are financially more adept than me. I want to be around people who look down on my salary, and like, because one of my mentors here in Tokyo, like I did okay last year, but he's like, dude, you're poor. Like, he said it jokingly, but he like he's like made fun of me, and like, my ink, it's in the top percentile. But there's, Rich talks about this too, about like you have a limited amount of fucks to give. So when I was like in my 20s and I really wanted to like maximize my understanding of seduction and womanizing, I had a group of friends who would be like, oh, John's a bad guy because he's always fucking these girls and blah blah blah. And it takes energy to like defend yourself towards these people too, that you shouldn't waste that energy on these people. If somebody doesn't agree with your lifestyle, then they gotta go. It's sad to say, but I don't care if it's your mom, it's your dad. If you want to sort out your goals and get your things done, then you have to get rid of these people. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it.
You have to be ruthless.
You do, man.
You have to be ruthless with who you let in your inner circle. You have
because
to be.
it wastes it's a waste of your energy. Like, let's say it just depletes 15% of your energy every day. But what if you were to put 15% of your energy towards studying podcasts or reading new books or talking to your mentor or earning money to go do something to meet your mentor or whatever. Like, I have a mentor in Tokyo, and sometimes he hits me up at like 1 o'clock in the morning. He's like, yo, you want to hang out? I drop everything and I get in a taxi. Round trip, it's $100 to go hang out with this guy and learn from him. And even if it's just 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, sometimes it's never usually that short, but that's the level of dedication it has to take. And why half-ass it? Like, why keep these charity cases around? For all you guys that are out there, like, you have good hearts, whatever, like it, you have to be ruthless, because at the end of the day, it's either those people are going to drag you down, because they will, or you're going to get up to the next level.
Yeah. Let me just
before you hop in though, let me just deal with the super chat. Red Stealth, I don't know why it's not showing up on the StreamYard feed, and I can't put it up on the screen, so I'll just read it. So thanks for the super chat. MLD once said, talented people in the government and companies are leaving. Boy, did he call it. 2020 is my year. I'm sick of incompetence and I want financial freedom.
Right.
That's kind of the blog that Aaron Cleary wrote a couple weeks ago about let the women keep corporate America, right?
Yeah, it's good. And I actually kind of springboarded on that too. I jumped on that because I wrote actually a 4,000 word post about old world thinking versus the new world thinking, and corporate America, all this crap. With that's what inspired that was it led me to a thought, and that thought was that a lot of people are still clinging to that old way, their old order way of thinking. When we have a new order way of doing things, and people go back to that because it's comforting, or they think it's the right thing, or it gels with their ideology, or gels with their belief sets and stuff. Now, what I was going to say is this is, just sort of to tag something onto the end of what John was saying. Robert Greene has said this, and I don't think he's ever put it in a book, but I remember him saying this at one point. He said that there are, he's had this discussion before on several of his interviews, but one thing he said was, there is live time and there's dead time. And live time is where you are putting and you're applying yourself to the things that will grow you, that will build you. Like if you're I'm going to say it as an artist or as a writer, like live time to me is sitting down and writing and doing what I need to do to move me to the next level, to build me, to make me greater than I was. That's the live time. That's what I'm using to build myself so that I can be something more in the future. And then there is dead time, and dead time is when you're sitting in traffic to go to your dead end job, and you're trying to, you're struggling with your marriage, you're dealing with your crummy kids. That's dead time. Dead time is doing the things that you have to do that don't do anything to build you up. And basically what Robert Greene was saying is that you need to find ways to get to live time more than dead time. And that's what really kind of like modern Western society does to guys right now is they say, just be happy with this. Sedate yourself with porn, sedate yourself with alcohol, sedate yourself with these drugs, whatever those drugs may be.
Marijuana.
Sedate yourself. Don't and live your entire life in dead time. That's what it's pretty much what we have to deal with right now.
And one aspect of this, which just dovetailing on what you guys have just said, is of course the woman in your life or the women in your life. And that is something that, I had to deal with this. This has been a constant thing for me.
That's huge, man.
And I had to deal with this back in 2016, 2017. I was living with a girl very briefly. We were in this relationship, and I knew that if she continued to live with me, and there were other problems as well, it wasn't just that, but I knew that if she continued to live with me, I would not have any chance of getting to where I wanted to get to. There would just be zero chance, because she just wasn't the right person to do that. She was sort of, she didn't give me the time. She wanted my time all the time. She wasn't encouraging in terms of what I wanted to do. I knew she wouldn't support it anyway. She certainly wouldn't support something like this, And I just knew, and it was this conflict, because it was like, well, she's in some ways, obviously I've got feelings for this girl, but I'm going to have to cut her, because if I don't, this is it. This is the, and you have to remember the woman that you're with, or the women you're with, sometimes the closest people to you. So when you're looking at those 5 people, it's not just your 5 mates, it's also your girl. So I think that's something people need to look at.
One of the girls I was dating in 2015, she's like, I want you to quit modern life dating, or we're gonna break up. I was like, well, see you later. It's nice knowing. Thanks for the pussy.
We're gonna break up.
because that's a big thing. A lot of guys, like, they want to make an exception for their wife or their girl or whatever.
Right.
Why did she want you to stop doing what you were doing? What was the reasoning behind that?
Attention competition.
She was a loser. She was a bum. She was fucking drinking every day. She was the BPD girl. She had all the. She had Japanese people cut themselves on the thighs. So I found those after we got naked. I found like that bar of cuts and everything. And I was being, I was still young at the time. I was 29, and so I was trying to be Mr. Charity Case, because I was like, I kind of felt bad for her. At the same time, I was still like banging other broads and stuff, but I just felt bad for her. And it's every day when you wake up to that, and she's like, are you going to quit your website for me? Or are you going to, like, it's textbook. It's like, if some girl asked Rich to stop doing his cars, or asked Ryan to stop cooking, or Rollo to stop playing his guitars, like, it's not going to happen. And this happens all the time. She's like, why do you always go to the gym so much? Why do you play at these live shows so much? Like, bitch, you met me at a live show. Like, duh. Like, this is like, what are you trying to sabotage the relationship?
A lot of girls want to lose those fights, though. They love doing these fights. They're like shit tests, and they want to lose, because then they know they can't quite have you, which lets them want to chase you, which makes them interested. I think the problem isn't so much that girls are demanding these things; it's that too many guys are giving it to them.
Yes, that's
like,
it.
if it's
That's
really
huge.
your mission.
Well, guys, for the most part, are happy to make themselves less so she can become more. I think, Rollo, you wrote an essay at one point, or did something on dream killers.
Oh yeah. Dream Killers was the seminal one. I actually have written quite a few about this topic. But what guys do, and this is why I keep saying, you have to kill the beta. You have to kill off that blue pill part of you and become something more. Make yourself your mental point of origin. All that stuff comes back to that. Come to that, to that part. But what I was going to say is that when you are in that blue pill mentality, when you have this idea that you should be doing everything to, please the woman, like on my last podcast, it was about satisfying women, like how guys have this mentality that they have to satisfy her in bed, satisfy her out of bed, satisfy her with a house, satisfy her, and there's no satisfaction that comes from any of that.
Well,
but
that's
it's a very Western thing. Like, that doesn't happen in Asia. Over here. Like, that's not a thing. Like, it's the opposite, actually.
If you
like, on the channels of TV and everything as well.
If you live your life like that, it transfers over into other aspects of your life. So what I was saying before about how I've been working in the alcohol industry, I used to work for a guy who was one of the principal creators, brand creators of Kettle One vodka. And I can say that now because I know he's retired. So
great vodka.
Yeah. So he was in a marriage, got out of that marriage because he was fooling around with one of his secretaries. I'm not going to name names or anything, but classic rich guy gets rid of his old school wife and gets with the secretary that supports his mission, whatever you want to call it. But so she gets with him, and what happens is the wife, knowing that he's got a lot of money, takes him for a ride, takes him to the cleaners, and what happens then is, because of those choices, because of that belief set, because of that blue pill mentality and those blue pill idealisms that he had, it led him to be less marketable than he would otherwise have been. Because as a result of that, people who want to invest in new brands, people that want to work with him, don't want to have anything to do with him, because they're afraid that they will lose their investment, because he'll make another poor choice with the women that he's with. Yeah. So there's that part. Like I learned that from seeing this guy, living his life. When I look at Jeff Bezos, like we were just talking about before, when I look at that guy and people go, well, he's got to be an alpha. He makes millions and millions of dollars. And it's like, no, man, no, he's got money. Yes, granted. But that doesn't mean he was it is very possible that guy could have been in the right place at the right time and did what he was going to do to make that. There's plenty of guys who had his skill set at that same time. He's the one that carried it through. Yeah,
Mark Cuban had it too.
Business success doesn't make you alpha. Like Rich was super successful before he became like understanding of all this shit. Like I know guys that are like they like you said, roll all the time. They don't get it, and these guys are multimillionaires, and they are pussy repellent. Like women, clam up around them.
Well, most very successful Silicon Valley guys are left-leaning, plugged-in, blue-pilled betas. They just are. But they've been exceptionally successful at what they do, so they end up with problems in their personal life. Those are that's like the vast majority of the guys that I talk to right now when I'm doing my coaching, right? But I wanted to share a quick screenshot over here to kind of emphasize this a little bit. I put out a tweet earlier this week. So I have two simple rules when it comes to my inner circle. One, I don't associate with losers, and two, you don't associate with those that associate with losers. You always have to adjust who gets to be in your inner circle. So you have to get rid of people. I mean, quite often I'll just delete numbers. I'll get rid of people on Facebook that are just, anchors. I tend to spend most of my time facilitating inner circle network building. There was a comment in here somewhere from somebody, this guy over here. So he says, you pretend to help men that have difficulties in life, in brackets losers, but you don't associate with them. No, moron. I'm going to read it to you again so you understand it. I have two simple rules for my inner circle. Okay. So what does that mean, guys? You have your inner circle. Okay, you've got a perimeter that you draw around, which right now could be the Rule Zero gang sort of thing. You have the people outside of that, and you have the people outside of it. It's like a target. You've got like a number of different circles. With my inner circle, these are two very strict rules. You might be a loser in life. There's other people in here that said, well, by definition, I'm a loser. I haven't had any success. I'd like to have success. That's why I follow you. Good. So, do the work, but you're not going to be in my inner circle. I'm not going to have you on a broadcast like this. You won't be in my inner community.
Well, you want some proof of concept.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you got to do some work to get to the inner circle, right? A lot of guys will say, well, how do I get to the inner circle? How do I work with a guy like you? It's like, well, you offer some value. Most of the time, I'm sure you guys have noticed this too. Most of the time you'll get messages and DMs and people will approach and be like, oh, you saved my life and this, that, and the other thing, and I'd love to work with you and I want to get more information and how do I work with you and how do I learn more? And it's like, well, here's a link to my community. It's like X bucks a month, hop in and, we'll get you in the inner circle. We do Q&As. Oh, I'd love to, but I can't afford that. I'm broke. It's like, you can't afford 40 bucks a month to come into the inner circle and work with other guys that are chasing excellence, not tail, and doing work on their lives. Like it's the price you got to pay. Either that or you got to serve them somehow, right? Like, what are you going to bring to the table that's going to offer some value to me? Because more often than not, whenever somebody hits me up and like, hey man, I want to talk to you, I want to pick your brain, or I want to put you on this, that, or the other thing. Whenever somebody says, I want to pick your brain, the first thing that I think is you're really picking my wallet because you're stealing my time for free. So you always want to make sure that you're always very, very clear about who's on the inside and who's on the outside. Draw a strong perimeter and only work with people closely, or only let people on the inside that are willing to do the work and are obviously going to add some value to your community, to your life, help you up yourself, elevate yourself. And people that don't, you just hold them on the outside of the perimeter. They can come in maybe later on in the future, but if they're going to lower your average, you don't let them in. It's as simple as that.
And it's not just money he's talking about either. Like, your advice to me was great for that, by the way. the amount of people wasting my time dropped off once they put a paywall in the way.
Yeah.
Because it filtered for people who are actually going to be worth my time, and it saves my frustration as much as it saves their failures.
And
It's
the
protect
biggest problem
yourself.
that I have with those people that want your time for free is they're mostly assholes, meaning they will ask you for help, but they'll do absolutely nothing with
Right.
it. I have a
I've
question
learned
about
that.
this girl. I have a question about that. How do I solve this? How do I do that? It's like, and you give them the information, and I swear to God, it always happens. Within 30 to 90 days, there's another message with a very similar question because they've done fuck all with it.
Yeah. And it's not even
Yeah.
money. There's some guys that I work with. They haven't paid me a cent. But for example, the breathe through your balls guy, I deal with him all the time. But he helped me with
Breathe through your
emails.
balls.
I know.
Mhm.
He's the guy.
Yeah, the
who
guy
did
on Twitter.
the Anthony
No,
thing.
that guy is.
Oh, right,
I talk
right,
to that guy a lot too. That guy is fucking a solid guy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Never offered me $1. I've never offered him $1. But I've
Yeah.
helped him through his marriage, through my stuff, and he's helped me through email lists on his stuff. So even if you're broke, like there's things
Bring
you can
something to the
offer.
table.
Just
Yeah.
solve a problem. Do something.
Do something. for
Heck,
it.
sometimes even just being really entertaining is good enough.
So here's a really good example. So the guy that did like the sizzle reel, like the sizzle intro for my newer videos that you see with like the clips between the car and the triggering sound bites. He didn't have the ability to book for coaching, but he's a great videographer. He does great work. He goes, "Hey, look, man, I want to work with you. I'd like to get some coaching. I'll exchange this work for that." I was like, done. I gave him an hour of my time afterwards, and I spent some time. It was close to 2
He
hours
gave you some
actually.
really good B-reel, man.
Yeah, and he gave me some great work, that I can use for my channel, right? Like that's how you get on the inside with guys that you want to get some access to, right? You have to offer them some value first. Stop taking. You have to give to them first. Tim Ferriss talked about this in the 4-Hour Workweek when he was talking about how he got to where he's at. I mean, he's a very successful angel investor, very successful podcast, so on and so forth. And he started his career basically by donating his time to Silicon Valley companies. He was basically living in his mom's minivan. If that's where you are at, cool, right? You want to get to the inner circle, offer some value to their lives, do something that contributes to them, right? That's how you hit them up. We got a super chat here. Let's
go ahead.
Oh, dude, thanks for the super chat, man. That's a sweet one. What advice can you give to those considering to cut off a parent? I find this tether difficult. What about siblings, minors stuck in a loser environment? Should they try to undo the damage done to the child when they turn 18?
Dude,
So,
I can
loser
take that,
family,
guy.
what do you do with that?
Dude, same
Gotta
thing.
do it.
I remember when I was telling the story about inbred Blaine and the crack in the house thing.
Yeah.
They got my mom on it briefly. And I remember coming home one day and she was talking about it, doing like it helps with my asthma and stuff like this. And like right then and there, I'm like, look, either me or it, make your decision right then. And at that point, I was already gone. And I know everybody's saying the next level, it's like sometimes you got to be ruthless. This stuff's as hard as you make it. If your parents love you more than stuff that's detrimental, then they'll make the change. And if they don't, just you let it go, but you don't make it into a big deal because that's how you talk yourself out of doing hard decisions. Just treat it no differently than you would about having to paint the house on Thursday. And it makes these decisions much easier because you take your emotions out of it. Everybody's talking about wanting to be the alpha male who's super stoic and blah, blah, blah. Well, then this is what you have to do. Be a little dispassionate. Realize if your family member's on drugs and they're going to steal your VCR, they just can't come over. And yeah, you can feel bad about that, but you can feel bad when your dog gets rabies and you have to put it down, but you put it down.
Since I'm writing the did you want to get to that one?
No, it's just
Rich?
a quick statement.
Okay.
So,
I mean, as I'm writing book 4, one of the mentalities that I'm encountering, particularly with like evangelical Christian guys, is this, I don't say martyr complex, where it's like they want to, like,
No, it is a martyr.
turn the cheek to the, if you get slapped on one side of the cheek, offer the other side of the cheek, like do not repay evil with evil. Think of others before you think of yourself. This
sounds a lot like Big House whining too, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. I know, but it's this self-sacrificial kind of thing. And while I can see how they would make this into some sort of spiritual, medal of honor, because you want to be more Christ-like or whatever, it's not really a good way to live your life, particularly right now. Particularly in an age where it's easier than I keep talking about barriers to entry and stuff. It's easier now to fuck over people than it's ever been in the past. Because it's easier to get away with. It's easier to do all this stuff. And what I run into is, and I hate to throw this out there because it's like it's like I have I'm guilty of this too, right? I try to help people out. I got into writing and doing what I do because I didn't want to see another guy put a noose around his neck. I didn't want to see another guy blow his brains out because he was unable to kill the beta. He was unable to he couldn't live without her, right? So that's why I got into this. That's why even to this day, and maybe I should change this now, but like to this day, when people hit me up for counseling, I do it when I can. I don't do it. If I happen to be available at that particular time, I'll be happy to do that. I'd be happy to talk to you. I've never had like an hourly rate for what it is I do. I just say, hey, look, pay me what you think that your time or my help was worth to you. And while I will get some guys who will really say, yeah, here, and they'll pay me very well, or they'll say, this really helped me out. Your book helped me out. I want to show my appreciation. I'm cool with that. But like, I don't want to, and maybe this is just me, but I don't want to cut off like the high school kid who can't pay that kind of money, who really needs that help, who really needs, to read my book, or he needs to talk to me, one-on-one. And I know he can't. Okay. So that's one thing. It's one thing to talk to that guy who genuinely needs it. But then it's another thing to have like what Rich was just saying, like the ask holes, right? The guys who want you to take over, take the wheel, Jesus. They want you to take the controls of their life and point them in the right direction. That's one of the reasons why you see this, what is it? The Jordan Peterson crew, right? The Jordan Peterson kids, the Lost Boys generation. They completely, the lobster kids, they completely lack direction in their life. They lack purpose in their life, and they want someone to come in and say, I really fucked my life up. Here, take over and take it and point me in the right direction so that I can, hold my hand through life so that I can live a better life. And that's why people get frustrated with me, because I don't offer 12-step to a better life. I don't offer those things. I offer you a tool set so you can rebuild yourself or rebuild a life. I'm not the guy who's going to give you prescriptions. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. And anybody offering you prescriptions is selling you something.
Well, it reminds me
on the point about the parents, I was just going to say, I think sometimes we're a bit imprisoned by what we think we should do. And it's a form of people pleasing, or maybe even you could say codependency. We think that to be a good guy, to be a decent guy, you should have this sort of relationship with your parents or your siblings or whoever else, from your family or whatever. And I think it's important to try to release yourself from that thinking and just think, okay, so, but as objectively as I can, how has this person treated me? What is this person now bringing into my life? And if it's negative, in the end, you don't really owe them anything. Or at least, you at least you have the right to detach yourself. So you need to sort of look at it kind of objectively. And actually, I've just started reading the new Robert Greene book now, the Laws of Human Nature, I think it's called. I just started listening to the audiobook. And that bit at the beginning when he's talking about rational behavior as opposed to emotional behavior and how people can go off track being too emotional. And it's sort of like, you've got to look at these things rationally and think, okay, rationally, what is this person bringing to me? Even if they're a family member, or how has this person affected me in the past? And if it's bad, then, you need to take steps to distance yourself.
There's what I've noticed too, like, it's kind of a Fight Club quote, but these days, like, men don't have like a real struggle, and they don't have a real way to validate their masculinity. Like Rollo did fencing, I fought and everything. Like, I think that a lot of these guys, when they try to like be this white knight or whatever, this is like them, the wires are kind of crossed in their mind, where they think like being like this white knight champion and like sticking up for this broken girl or keeping this broken person around and trying to help them, this kind of like is a form of narcissism and kind of feeds into their ego of them like trying to feel like the hero. Trying to feel like the champion, like, oh, I did it. I cultivated my masculinity. I saved this person. But at the end of the day, it's really like a very, very bad strategy overall.
Dude, and I'm telling you, I did all the things that men are supposed to do to be men. Like, I worked on a farm. I raised cattle. I went to the military. I fought in MMA. Like, all that stuff didn't make me any more of a man. And it's just what Rollo said. The actual stuff, like in pickup, the roadmap, those routines, they don't matter. What matters is you going through them. And by you going through them, you learn that for the most part, it's a placebo. It's just something to give you a little bit of comfort while you're making your mistakes as you move on.
Yeah. The the question he was asking about family, you know, led me to start to think about a lot of people that I know that run businesses, you know, from the EO chapter in Toronto, my involvement there, and other people that I've talked to. And this comes up almost always. They come from like most guys that are successful business owners, multimillionaires, they often come from nothing. It's not like they had, you know, here's $5 million handed to them, go start a business, and they were successful. I think for the most part, when people get that, they don't usually launch, or they fail to launch. But most guys that I know that have built themselves from a zero to a hero because they've done the work, there's still people in their inner circle that aren't the greatest influence on their life. Like, they tend to lower their average. And I've seen people, even with parents and siblings, be so ruthless that they will not let these people distract them from their purpose. Interestingly, though, they will let a woman distract them from their purpose. A woman will get past the force field of, you know, purpose and pierce it. And somehow at some point it can derail them. But when it comes to everything else, like family and friends, they're often quite ruthless, but they'll make concessions, they'll make exceptions when it comes to a woman, which is an interesting observation.
And that's the real killer. That's the real killer, isn't it? Unless you're careful, it's the women that get through underneath the.
Well,
Yeah,
here's
let
the
them through. I mean, if you let crazy in your life, you can expect crazy in your life, right?
There's only one thing they offer that family doesn't.
Well, then dudes will think, yeah, but dudes will sort of justify and say, yeah, but I'm in love with her, but it's special. You know, there's this girl, she's so special. We're so madly in love that, you know, okay, she's a bit.
Yeah, I fell down some stairs. He really loves me. I act so stupid sometimes. We've heard this.
Nauseating when I hear that. Nauseating, especially from a man.
But it's a bit like it's a bit like, I suppose, Rollo's idea of dream killers, isn't it? Really, this is kind of what we're talking about. And I mean, for me, I found that it manifested itself even in very small ways. One of them is time, right? Because I heard it.
Time and dead time.
I heard it once said that, you know, it's all like, it's one thing to give lip service to supporting somebody's goals, but it's another thing to actually give them the time to do it. And what I was coming up against with this particular girl, and it was only a few months actually we were together because I ended up throwing her out, but you know, what I came up against was that you know, I was in a 9 to 5 job. I was in a 9 to 5 job at the time, and then it would be the weekend, and I wanted to work on my stuff. I wanted to do writing and work on my projects and things. And she would be like, "Well, no, it's the weekend. We've got to relax. Let's go to the mall." You know, and it's like, well, yeah, but you don't understand, because if I don't spend this time doing my stuff, then I'm never gonna get out of the situation that I'm in, that I'm not happy in terms of my work life. So if they, you know, and support is not just paying lip service and saying, yeah, I really want you to do well. It's also being the practical stuff, saying, okay, you can sit in the spare room for 10 hours today working on your thing. And if they're not going to do that, they're not supporting you properly.
Yeah,
well, and those girls lack they lack understanding of business. Like my girl would never ever ask me to stop doing modern life dating. I mean, she like hinted at it one time. I was like, you can fly economy, that's fine. Like I'm not doing this shit. I'm not dealing with it. And she quickly, she just laughed it off. My girl really not to give me a headache, but like the previous one, it was like, hey, you need to fucking quit this and that.
Women act as shitty as you let them.
As you let them, yes. And I was gonna say, as getting back to the dream killers line there, I think a lot of guys, particularly, I mean, most guys are beta. We already have established, I think, that 80%, 85% of guys are beta. So they're going to be people pleasers. They're going to be appeasers. They're going to be guys who are going to put off their mission so that they can make the bitch happy. So because that's also very important for these guys, because if you are a low SMV guy, you don't have the same opportunities as a high SMV guy. So if you get locked into that negative feedback loop where you're constantly trying to make her happy, appease the woman, satisfy the woman, satisfy what you think women should want, build your life around the concept of satisfying a woman. Yeah, you don't have any live time. You don't have any motivation for yourself. So her motivations, and she becomes your goal. That's why I constantly stress this all the time, is that a woman should only ever be a complement to a man's life, never the focus of it. Because in every time you focus on that woman, it will change your life. It will change who you are fundamentally who you are as a person, on what you believe about women. That's why this is important. People say, oh, well, those red pill guys, all they do is they talk about PUA, and all they want to do is get laid as much as they possibly can, as humanly possible. And it's like, no, this shit is important because it has so many it's complex, but it's also has so many effects on so many other things. But getting back to what you're saying about the wanting to do that, a lot of guys think that that's their duty. That's their masculine duty. Their masculine mission in life is to get married, have the kids, be the best father that they can, make enough money to support, send the kids through college, and then maybe have something for retirement and make that girl happy at the end of the day. And yeah, exactly. And so what do? This is where guys get into the idea of relational equity. They think that if I do all this stuff, look at what I've sacrificed for you. Look at all the things that I could have done, honey, that I didn't do. It's exactly like the scene in Marriage Story where Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson are going at each other, and he's recounting all of the things that he did to facilitate their relationship. And isn't he a good guy? And what did I get in return? A sexless marriage. And I had to go cheat because you weren't banging me, and all this stuff. And the guys, they get to a point in their life. You will at some point. I don't care how, however young you are, or however old you are, you will get to a point in your life where it will become real for you. I know Rich has. I know I have. I know everybody's listening to. I know you've reached that point where you go.
Alec Baldwin has. You remember that recording?
This isn't what I signed up for. I'm not getting any return on my investment, because guys are deductive problem solvers. We go and we say, I have relational equity. How come you're not respecting that? How come I'm not getting any kind of reward for what I've done? And then what do women say? Well, you don't. No, but nobody owes you sex. Then you're like, what the fuck? I thought this was a deal. I thought this transactional nature of our relationship and everything else, men and women, transactions, right? I kept up my end of the bargain. You didn't. And then what do? They start they default to negotiations. They default to, well, I did all these things, or they keep the spreadsheet of all the times they did something really good and she turned them down for sex. And so you get this mentality where it's like input, output, and it doesn't work for these guys. But they feel better for it. And this is what John was saying. They feel better for having sacrificed. They feel like, well, I did the right thing. And like there was this one time when I was on with Pat Campbell, and a guy calls in and he says, yeah, my wife has cheated on me 4 times, and I was the good Christian guy, and I forgave her 4 times with 4 different dudes, and I did what I was supposed to because that's what the Bible told me that I was supposed to do. And like me and Pat are just like, well, what the hell is wrong with you? But that's the mentality.
That's Oprah fan friends' wives all clap and cheer him on, so he's getting mommy patting on the head.
Exactly.
He probably gets off on it.
It's a martyr
man, and they already got the roadmap.
He probably gets off on it. Let's be honest. If 4 times,
well, nobody does anything if they don't get off on it. And this whole martyrdom thing, that's the equivalent of jerking it off in front of the mirror and throwing it in your own face. Like, it's huge.
Well, that's why I was saying. That's why I was saying is like there's this martyr mentality, and it's reinforced in society, in religion, and everything, because it keeps those beta men locked into dead time. The mentality that you must sacrifice. That's why I really have a real strong disagreement. And people say, you don't know who Jordan Peterson is, but this is my disagreement with Peterson. Peterson's base concept is that life is shit, and we got to find ways to mitigate it from being worse shit. And I'm like, that right there is exactly what Rich calls, playing to, survive. Playing not to lose rather than playing to win. And that should right there. I think that sort of characterizes where Peterson is coming from with respect to like how he's going to live life, or how he thinks other people ought to live life and negotiate it. And basically your life is shit and you need to find ways to make it less shit.
Do you even know Dostoevsky, bro?
Well, and so like what happens is these guys get into that vicious cycle. They get into that's why the red pill is so groundbreaking and such an epiphany for these guys, because they go, you mean I could live my life differently? You mean everything I've been told since I was 5 years old about women and money and do unto others and everything else, that's been what's the cause of me not living the life I want? Yeah. And they freak out because they look back on their choices in life and they go, I made all of those choices because I believed in that bullshit for so long. And that's why they get angry. And it doesn't have to be a girl. It could just be them getting angry at the life that they could have had. That's why the thing that pisses me off so much was dealing with that borderline personality disordered chick back when I was in my mid 20s, back when I was in the prime of my life, and I should have said, you know what, fuck it, and gone off and done my own thing and been my own man. But I didn't, because I was locked into that. Well, I got to figure this out, man. I got to figure out what she wants. If she just tell me what she wants, I would do it.
Yeah.
No.
Such a lot of time gets wasted with that kind of thing. There's so much dead time. I was talking to a friend of mine actually, who's like a content creator, dude, got a YouTube channel and stuff, and he went through this really tricky thing with a girl recently, and he ended up taking some time off, took a few months off and everything. And he said to me, and now she's ended up going off with some other dude anyway. And he said to me, listen, I mean, I've wasted 3 or 4 months of my life on this crap. It's such a sad thing, and yet it really gets guys if they're not vigilant.
Well, we are
Just
on
be selfish. It's
fire
not so
today.
bad to be selfish.
I know. I've been hitting on all cylinders lately.
Guys, if you've followed us for the last year, at the very least, you've seen us remove losers from our inner circle. Like, success leaves clues. Like, there's always lessons there. Iron's going to sharpen iron. When you recognize somebody as an anchor in your life, you need to cut them loose and get rid of them. Wish them the best. Hopefully they go and do the right thing and they improve themselves. They probably won't. It's not your problem. Who cares? Go and, you cannot soar like an eagle if you surround yourself with turkeys. It's as simple as that, right?
Just know, after you fail and you fall from grace, we will laugh about it behind the scenes.
Quite possibly, yes.
Well, I think guys need to understand that, and I've written at least 4 or 5 different essays about this, that men are innately idealists. We see the river and we want to put a bridge across it. We want to believe in what is possible. And that idealism, that natural ideal, like, men are more interested in things, women are more interested in people. As part of that interest in things in the outside world, we want to understand and figure out how we can impose our will upon our world, impose our will upon our environment, make things better, or either constructively or destructively. We have an idea. We are idealists naturally, and that idealism can be both your greatest strength but also your greatest weakness. And I know, and I learned a valuable lesson last year. And you guys told me this. You said, you know what, you're learning the red pill about guys, and I sure as shit did.
And there's a lot of people out there, even though they see
rules.
the lessons, even though they see the experiences that others go through, they choose to look in the other direction because they just rationalize nonsense in their head. Well, if I stick around, maybe I'll get my chance. Maybe they'll be different to me. No, buddy. Whatever's coming your way is coming your way, and you fucking deserve it, man.
Well, guys believe that through their sacrifice that a greater good will come about. And you know what? That people build businesses on that. These are the
same guys that keep their wives around after they cheat on them 4 times too.
Right.
Post about their enemas online and
yeah.
If you contrast Jordan Peterson with Robert Greene, who's the other guy we've been talking about a lot, I mean, they're so different, aren't they, in terms of their position? And I'm just so on board with Robert Greene, because Robert Greene is a bit like, look, cut the crap. You want certain things in your life. You want to have certain things in your life. These are some of the tools that people use in order to get those things. You might not agree with all of them. Some of them you might choose not to use, but this is stuff that's actually going to help you get there. And Jordan Peterson is very much the opposite of that. It's very much, turn the other cheek, be the good guy, blah-de-blah.
It's not even real Jordan Peterson either, though. Like, his early stuff before the popularity was all clinical psychology, and that was great.
Yeah. I was thinking,
it's once he's like, I need to cash in on this trans thing.
I was
want to tell them what they want to hear.
I was thinking more of his book, the 12 steps or whatever it is.
12 steps.
The 12 steps of
a perfect living. Yes, I know. Well, Robert Greene. I have the 48 Laws of Power up here. Law number 10: infection. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. This is the one that stuck with me the most. Law number 10: you can die from someone else's misery. Emotional states are as infectious as diseases. You may feel you are helping the drowning man, but you are only precipitating your own disaster. The unfortunate sometimes draw misfortune upon themselves. They will also draw it on you. Associate
drowning
with the
man
happy
or
and
woman.
the fortunate. Yeah, well, especially drowning women, because we want to be the savior. Well, because guys, especially beta men, will default to Captain Save-A-Ho.
Literally drowning you, by the way. Like, they teach that in lifeguarding training. Like,
have you ever tried to
drowning? You approach foot first. Because if they grab onto you to pull you down, you got to step on their head.
Have you ever tried to save somebody who's drowning before? Have any of you guys tried it?
I did. I used to be a lifeguard. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And you dive down, you take them down, and that's the only way they let go of you. So you have to basically just not let them take you down. And if they're willing to get help, that's fine. But if not, you got to let them drown to stay alive.
Do you guys get this question every once in a while? I know I get it from guys. Like, guys will hit me up and they'll go, how do I know who my friends are? Who are the kinds of guys like I should be associating with? Or like, how do you, what was it? We even got it on this show a couple of times. Guys would say, well, how do you develop
I have an answer to
a
that.
strong tribe? How do you develop like friendships with really
Give them a chance to
quality
burn
guys?
you and see if they take it.
Well, that'll become the obvious part of it. But what I was going to suggest is you'll know by the time, like after you spend 2 or 3 hours with somebody, if there's somebody that you need to spend more time around, they chase excellence, they're working on putting a dent in the universe, you're going to feel energized, right? Because they're basically going to fill your batteries up. People that are on the opposite side of the spectrum where they drain you, the energy vampires, you're going to feel exhausted after spending 2 or 3 hours with them. Like you're going to lose track of time if you hang out with people that are great, chasing greatness after 2 or 3 hours. You won't get bored. You won't get tired. Those that aren't, you're going to get drained. You're going to be like, oh, fuck, I didn't really like that, you know? Use your head, guys. Like use your awareness. Pay attention to what happens when you're around people. Your intuition knows.
It's such a problem for men. I would say really in the last 2 or 3 generations, but certainly this in the millennial generation, finding like guys don't know who they ought to be hanging out with and who like. I think a lot of guys believe that they should tolerate shit, that they should tolerate crap, that they should be the ones to help out all the time. So think of do unto others, that kind of stuff. Like they really buy into what Robert Greene is saying here. So why would this be a law? Because so many guys do it. Because so many guys think that this is the way to heaven, or this is the way to have a better, like, remember when I was there for you, man? Like it's like I said, relational equity. They want to get some sort of return on that investment. But like, this is a generational thing for this generation because they've been brought up and they've been acculturated and they've been raised since the time they were 5 years old to not understand male nature. To not deliberately, so that they will be gender loathing. And so when they get to be adults, you've got boys that are raised as defective girls who become men who are raised as defective women. And so they don't know. They don't know how to form friendships. They don't know how to form bonds. They can't tell the difference between bullying and hazing and just like a guy ribbing you and giving you shit and like there's a healthy kind of testing between guys, but these guys have been raised in such a feminine way for so long that they have no concept of how to relate with other guys. And so what do? They go and they say, well, that masculinity stuff, I'm going to define it for myself. I'm whatever I say it is. So it's like now we've distorted masculinity and we have erased masculinity and we've replaced it with whatever subjective definition that you want to have. And that is by design. So you get these guys who come in and I don't know how to make friends. I just broke up with my girlfriend. I'm feeling suicidal. What do I say to them? I say, you know what? You need to go and form, your relationships or work on, like, how do I get into a relationship after I've already broke up with this girl? What do your social networks look like? Nothing. Every last dude I talk to, zero. They have no social network because that woman became his world. Literally.
You guys ever see those screenshots that Robert Frank posts, from his DM? Like somebody would be like, "Oh, this girl broke my heart, and I don't know what to do. What do you think I should do, Robert?" And he's like, "Go do your chest, bitch."
Yeah,
It's chest day.
The most glorious day.
Do something, man.
Dude, that's why I hate those "how do I get a girlfriend" questions. It's like, dude,
no.
Riffald's
Wrong
law.
question.
You don't want a girlfriend. You absolutely don't want one. You want free sex.
That's
what guys want. And if she wants a relationship, she will earn it. Like, that's how you get a girlfriend. By having her drag you into a relationship kicking and screaming because she's just too good to boot her.
Yeah, that's true. I think one issue perhaps for younger guys, I mean, certainly when I was coming out of school and college and stuff, this was the case. It was like you'd have your cohort already of dudes that you'd hang around with, and that was sort of fixed. And it's sort of like, but those dudes can hold you back. Do you know what I mean? And those guys may have been all right when you were a kid and you're sort of growing up, but if you've outgrown them, you need to be able to move on. And the great thing about now is, with the internet, we do have this like global opportunity to now meet people. You can find your tribe out there. You can find other guys who you can hang out with, at least online, if not in real life.
I should caveat that too. On the flip side, is that it gets the back door of shitty people to come back in.
True, but I mean, like when I was 18, 19, 20, whatever. I mean, you would think then, pre-internet, it was harder to go out and meet a sort of tribe of like-minded people. You had to go and move to a big town, big city, and just hope that you go to the right places and hope that you'd meet some people. But now, I mean, the internet does give us an opportunity with that. But it's sort of like if you're hanging out with a group of guys you've hung out with since you were 16, and say you want to get good with dating skills, relationships, and things like that, and this group of guys, you go out with them every Friday and Saturday night. If you go up to talk to a girl, then they'll take the piss out of you. They'll laugh at you. They'll make jokes about you until you feel bad, so you don't do it. They're not helping you in your development in that area, and you need to find new friends.
Yeah.
If that is a priority for you, and the same.
You need to cover the grenade. Is basically it.
Yeah.
Or do you guys have that same thing there? What do you guys call the fat girls there? The fat friend.
Cock blocks.
The cock blocks. Yeah. So we say covering the grenade, but covering the cock block works too.
Jump on a grenade.
You need people who are going to support you. You need people who are going to support you in whatever your endeavor is. Whatever the main thing you're focused on at the moment. And if it's the people that are already around you, then you need to be able to detach from that. And I think it's the detaching bit that is difficult. I mean, it sounds like Rich, what you were saying, Rich. It sounds like you're quite ruthless about it in a way. You can cut people off when you realize that they're no longer.
You have to, man.
Serving their purpose, and maybe some guys find that a bit tricky. Maybe that's kind of something that guys need to learn.
It's harder for other guys. It's harder for other guys, but after you get burned a couple of times and you realize, I could have minimized this damage by ending this relationship 3, 6, 12 months ago. And it doesn't matter whether it's with men, women, business partners, friendships. Like back last February, I very publicly and famously said, "Go fuck yourself. I'm out." Right. And people were like, why did you do that? I don't understand. And sure enough, time told, throughout the rest of the year. Right. Like
truth
you
comes
have
out.
Yeah.
It's
like, yo, peace out. I'm done. Like I have no time for that shit. Like I have like many different multiple streams of revenue. I want to be as anti-fragile as possible. And the last thing that I need is some loser in my inner circle dragging me down or potentially exposing me to risk or problems. I don't have time for that. And you have to get to that point as a guy. Right. And I mean, you're only going to get to that point because as you're younger, you're going to expose yourself to these risks and you're going to make those mistakes. And you're going to trip and fall down. And you're hopefully going to learn your lessons. I mean, you're not going to lose. You're going to learn, hopefully. But as you get better at it, you need to become maniacal when it comes to getting rid of people that are trying to stay in your inner circle and just walking away and say, "Yo, I'm done." Like this does not serve me. This does not serve me whatsoever.
Yeah.
And is there advice to do that for guys, or is it just a question of you've just got to do it, feel the fear, and do it anyway?
So that was what
I think you got to
give them a chance to screw you over, and when they do, then you know what you've done. Just give them like a little bit, not a lot.
There's certain scenarios where I don't think that you can afford to let yourself get screwed over. Like a lot of guys will spend way more time, cross shopping their next car or working on their football fantasy league than the amount of time they spend trying to figure out if this is going to be a good mother or a good wife, trying to figure out what her life's all about, what she's like, and they'll just wipe up crazies anyway. So I think you've got to be very, very careful. I mean, you can't afford to let somebody in a business arrangement maybe in, you give them a small amount of business, maybe you give them 10% or something and just see what they do, or you have like a vesting period. And if they let you down, the first time somebody shows you who they really are, that is the time you have to let them go. You have to hire slowly, but fire quickly, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you the other thing, and this is, if I have a weakness, this is it. Is I'm a very forgiving guy. I'm very patient. I have a limit, but I'm a very forgiving guy. I'm a very patient guy. My wife will tell. My wife is way more impatient than I am, and that's been actually.
Dude, everybody in this panel can speak to that on you, man.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Yeah, well, for whatever it is, I'm slow to anger, put it that way. But here's the thing: is when I get pissed off, when I'm like really fucking hot, man, it's not so much it is whatever it is that I'm talking about. You'd have to really fuck me over to get me really, really hot, right? But here's the thing: is it's not so much the fact that you got me pissed off; it's that I know, and I expect other people to know, that I'm a really patient guy. And if I'm pissed off, you really fucking cross the line to get me to a point where I'm pissed off, right? And that's why I'm expecting people to go, to whoa, wait a minute, and I maybe that's a weakness, really. Maybe that's a weakness of mine is being overly forgiving. But again, going back to what we were saying about like this, Christian charity, Christianity, and a lot of religions are based on forgiveness, right? That's why Christianity is such a is so appealing to women in their epiphany phase, because it's a forgiveness of all the things that they've done. And, I'm just going to live. I'm not going to think about the past. I'm just going to keep going forward. And there's a certain amount of health to that, but if you want forgiveness, fine, but you still got to learn from what you did. You still have to learn from what you can't forget that stuff. And so I think a lot of people will lean on the idea that, like, I'm a better person because I'm more forgiving. Right. Or it's like, I forgive you. Well, I didn't do anything. Well, it doesn't matter. I still forgive you. Well, all that is self-righteousness.
That might be another example of necessity disguised as virtue, mightn't it, though? Because actually those people might be failing to make the tough decisions that are necessary that really they should have made. And they're letting themselves off the hook by saying, but it's because I'm such a great guy. It's because I'm so, forgiving.
Well, so what I've done, and I've actually learned this from Rich and from you guys as well, is that I'm a forgiving, patient kind of guy, and I see that as a weakness. So how can I improve? Do I have to be an asshole? No, but I don't allow myself to get into situations where I would have to do that in the first place now. So it's like I look at the potential of certain situations, the certain potential of, having a relationship with certain individuals. And now I've practiced just keeping people at arm's length, maybe not you guys, but like certain other people. And you'll have to forgive me. I've been fucked so many times because of my nature, I guess. I want to change that. Yeah. I've been screwed so many times. I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep you at arm's distance until you prove to me that that you're somebody that I can trust.
We got a good question there in the chat. Sorry, Troy. We got a good question. I just want to hit that because it's been up on the screen for a bit. But he said, what's the best way to find high achieving people to bring into your inner circle? I'm sure this is something other people watching on different platforms are thinking as well, or even the recording. My take on it is just to put yourself in rooms where you're not the smartest guy in the room. Every time you find yourself as the smartest guy in the room, it's time to leave that room. And you should be doing that throughout your life all the time. To me, that's what it really boils down to. But I want to pass it around to you guys just to hear what your thoughts and feedback are.
I'll say real quick, like you have to learn to, first and foremost, you need to clearly identify your goal. So if your goal is to have like 6-pack abs or whatever, then you need to be finding events and whatever to attend, and then that are facilitating these health events or whatever. And then from there, just because people attend these events doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to be, what they say they are. So for me, what I do is you have to get good at reading people. You got to you have to get good at spotting incongruencies and know who's full of shit and who's not full of shit. And a big part of this is just trial and error. Like I have met a lot of, I don't know if I've ever told this story, but I was involved with a con man before who like tricked me to work for him. And there's like these little incongruencies that showed up. Like he used to run this EverQuest power leveling company on the internet. And so he would get people to pay him thousands of dollars to level up their video game characters, but then he would just take the money and take their login information and threaten to delete their accounts. And these were like nerdy little people, so he could kind of like bully them and tell them, I'm going to delete your account. But there's little incongruencies, like, I just would notice him kind of acting slimy and manipulative, and he didn't have a car that was fully working at the time, and his license was suspended, but he was saying he made $380,000 a year. And I was 24 at the time, so I wasn't as sharp as I am now. This was 10 years ago. But, learn to read people, learn to spot incongruencies, and then test these people, set traps for them. Like I had a friend of mine who we're no longer friends anymore, but I had some girl come to the bar to meet me, and I saw him snaking on the girl, and I was like, wow, is this motherfucker really doing this? And I let him do his thing. I could have easily interjected. I saw what was going on, but one girl from Tinder is nothing compared to figuring out a snake in your inner circle. He ended up leaving with her and then sent me his whole message. Oh, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. But he outed himself, and I found out who he was, right? So you got to learn to spot people. You got to learn to develop your intuition and your people reading skills, most psychologically, body language, how they look, how they talk. There's a big stupid fairy tale. People say don't judge a book by its cover. You need to judge people by how they look. They're 100%. Telling you.
100%. Troy or Ryan, do you guys want to hit that? Do you have anything to add to that?
Just
I
in
do,
terms of
but after Troy.
in terms of bringing them in, I can only really echo what Rich said at the beginning, which is that you need to offer value yourself. I mean, since I've been self-employed, since I've been creating content, putting it out on the internet, I've met a lot of guys who are very high value guys who've achieved a lot in the same space. Obviously, you guys being the culmination of that. But I've met people, and the only way that I've ever met any of these people is because basically I've put something out into the world and they've seen it, and then they've a relationship has come about as a result of that. So I just think what Rich said right at the beginning is absolutely correct. You have to be giving something of value yourself if you want to sort of bring people in, and then I think what John said is true as well. And when I was chatting with Tristan Tate the other day, he was talking about what he said he called emotional equilibrium. And he said that he just has this ability, both with women, but also with business partners as well, to be very emotionally stable and to be able to cut off a relationship when necessary, when it's no longer serving him. And I think, we all need to strive for that, really, because we need to look at when a relationship is no longer serving us, whether it's it's business, social, whatever it is, and be able to sort of cut it off and not allow our emotions to get in the way. And he actually said that was one of the key things, both in terms of his business life, but also in terms of his, relationship life, that had allowed him to achieve some level of success. So I think it's those two things: give value and be able and willing to cut relationships when they are no longer right for you or giving you the energy and value you need.
Yeah.
Right.
I like the story of how Rollo and I met. That's the one I use. When I was just a goofy guy posting my field reports on the internet of me working on my relationship and leveling up, I had essentially busted my ass. I jumped in 2 feet first, started doing a lot, and then putting field reports out. So I did a lot and I reported a lot. Only reason I got invited to that first convention with Rollo is because out of all the people putting out content at the time, it was myself and Hunter were the only ones who weren't just inventing theory or mentally masturbating. We were actually doing things and reporting on it. So I think to answer that question, the best way to get around solid people that are high achievers is to be a high achiever. The more things I did, the more people noticed. And now that I'm actually at a level of, even in this little rinky-dink space, of achieving something, I've noticed how rare it is to see somebody else doing things. And so if you're actually potential that's making efforts, you do stand out. So if you're in a finance space and you're wondering why high-class finance people aren't paying attention to you, look at your own house first. If you're not achieving things, if you're not pulling in clients, if you're not doing this, if you're going to business meetings and your business isn't growing, then people who have growing businesses just aren't going to notice you because you're not doing anything. So for the most part, it's not even that, how do I find the group? How do you make yourself good enough that the group finds you, I guess is the best way to put it. Because communities are very small. High value people are very rare. And all you have to do is put in not even top tier effort, just like baseline level of how much work you need to do. Like, look at Rich. Earns way more money than me, doing business a lot longer, has more books than me. I'm not anywhere near at that level. Only thing I got on him right now is a hairline, and he's beat me with beard. So whatever. But at the same time, he sees I'm putting in work, I'm getting things done. And so he notices. And so we start to talk and liaise, and he sees this was like me, like, I don't know, 15 years ago. How long ago was it when you first started the business thing?
2000. First official business that like was on CRA and the books and all that stuff was probably about 2002, 2003.
So like, yeah, this is kind of like what I was like. I see some parts of me in 2002 here, so it's got potential. So, and then all I got to do is keep getting better and better. Yeah, it's a long game. But he's not going to wait until I have to afford my own R8 in order to hang out with me. But he's going to wait until I've actually started a business, put my balls on the chopping block there, actually gotten some things done, getting burned. Or even a little thing. I don't know, Rich. Hope you don't mind if I tell this part.
Good.
So once you left the Central Florida Convention of Xanax addicts, I remember the first thing I did was I gave him a call. It's like, hey, man, is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help? Let me know. Really sorry things happened this way. Basically letting him know that if push came to shove, I got his back because I know talent when I see it, and I know a good guy when I see him. And I know for a fact, whatever happened, like, he's going to be fine. He doesn't need my help. But at the same time, if I started getting this whole pick sides bullshit, I'd have left then and there, as opposed to when he did it again to Rollo. But and it's something you should do for other people too. Once you're in that group, to keep the scam artists that just want to leech off you from people who are useful, is little tests. Give them an opportunity to take advantage of you, and if they take it,
watch what they do.
Then yeah, you can watch what they do.
I've
seen that with creators now. Like, you see them now. They're guys I liked working with. I had no problems with. They're professional, but I give them a chance to do something that I know I wouldn't put up with, and they do it. And now I'm not working with them anymore. It's little simple stuff like that.
Yeah, like you'll see things like money magnify who people really are. They will F you over real hard if they have the opportunity to make $1, $10, $1,000, $1 million. Like, I've seen people try to like screw people over for very little money. So it's not like there's an upper limit or anything like that. We got a big announcement to make. Did you want to chime in on that question before we do the announcement?
Can I say something real quick to this guy? Yeah. This guy, Castle 4, I just read this. This is terrible. Okay. He says, I'm in a relationship in Jersey, really want to move in with cousins and friends in Southern California, in a pickle she would not come with. Definitely leading towards leaving. Feel like I'm going to break her heart. Nervous to tell her. Off topic, I know. Dude, get out.
Dude, she'll get over it faster than you can believe.
If you're not,
she will get over it faster than you will.
Yeah.
If you're not legally tied, you won't get fucked into divorce. Get out. This just really stuck out to me, so I wanted to say that.
All right. So Rollo, the question was, how do you find these people chasing greatness? Like, how do you surround yourself with this excellence?
Oh gosh, how do I do it? Well, I think, okay, so first off, you might expect this from me anyways, is like, I go along with the idea that, you know, people, like guys, if I see a guy who is like working a housekeeping job, but the dude is a solid dude, you don't have to have a shit ton of money to, you know, for me to want to hang out with you, or maybe to, you know, I think right now I'm a much better judge of character at 51 than I was at 31. So when I see stuff like that, or people tell me like, hey, I've got this ambition, or I got this drive to do something, one of the things that I really have a problem with is, I don't think, and this comes from experience, I'm sure you guys will agree with me here, is like when you see somebody who, you can tell the difference between a guy who has real drive and the guy who just talks about shit all the time. Like a guy who's just like, oh yeah, when I get my degree, or when I get to, you know, the big leagues, when I get there, like their life revolves around the planning, or these are the guys who are wrapped up in the get rich quick schemes. Like once I get to here,
about upstream Twitter this week.
Yeah, exactly. Once I get to a certain level, then things will be cool. Then I'll get some respect. Then the women will like me. Then I'll have money. Then I'll do whatever it is. And so I've gotten to the point where I can see those guys, and then I see the guys who actually have the drive. And it took me a while to do this, because when I was working in the liquor industry, you could see guys who were just there, just sort of phoning it in. And then there's the guys who just, they lived it. It doesn't matter. Like it didn't matter about the chicks, didn't matter about anything. All that mattered was what it was that they were doing, it's a single-mindedness. And that is like a quality I don't think a lot of people really have, really recognize, or really appreciate. So like for instance, my nephew, I love him to death. It could have been a professional baseball player. I'm talking with Aubrey Huff and all this stuff, but he just doesn't have the killer instinct, doesn't have the I'm going to, you know, go all the way. I'm trying to impress upon my daughter this too. I said, you know what? It's great that you have goals, but it's more important that you have this just consuming drive to get to where you want, to the point where it's like you will sacrifice and give up everything else so that you can go and you can be a success at this, because you love it so much that's your life. You know, like Kobe Bryant just died, right? I've seen some videos of him, like where he had like guidance counselors saying, "Ah, man, maybe you probably shouldn't, you know, bet on being a basketball player, you know, for the rest of your life," right? Kobe Bryant, right? And of course he used that because he had that drive, he had that innate eye of the tiger, right? The killer instinct. And I don't think a lot of guys have that. But you got to look for that in people. Like, that's what I like. If I'm looking for somebody like I want to work with, that I don't want them to be a liability to me. I want their drive to be something that we can use sort of together to get to the same place.
It's such a simple thing, the way you say it there. Don't be a liability.
Don't be a liability. I know
right?
it's well, and what were we just talking? Just this guy here just a second ago. You have a liability. That chick is a liability. You know, a family is a liability. I'm not saying that, I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean that in a clinical, rational sense. Family's a liability. A girlfriend is a liability. Your blue pill mentality is a liability. So if I see that, particularly as a red pill aware guy who's at my age, and I look at you and I can see what your character is, I can see if you've got the eye of the tiger or you are going to be a liability to me. So those are the things that I think that a lot of people, I mean, if you're going to say, well, what's the secret? The secret is understanding, like getting an idea, getting a feeling. You're not going to get it just by like one chance meeting, right? You're going to have to talk to this person. It's not, for me anyways, it's not about the money. It's about like seeing that drive. It's like, this guy has potential. What kind of potential does this guy have? Because I'll tell you one thing about money that really gets me. And I think I've told each one of you, at least individually, like when I first got into doing the line of work that I work in, I'm working with like casino general managers who are, you know, in charge of $15 to $20 million a year casinos. That ain't shit. Like John was saying just a minute ago, he's like, you're poor. Like that guy you were talking to says you're poor. Then I started working for an import-export company. They're making more money than the GMs, but they still are poor because the guys who are running the distribution, those guys, the Italians, those guys, that's wealth. That is real, genuine, true wealth. That's not like, oh, I got $10 million settlement. Oh, wow, you're rich. No, we're talking billions of dollars. That is like wealth that most people can't even think about standing next to.
You can't even spend it in your lifetime.
You can't even spend it in your lifetime, and your grandchildren won't be able to spend it in their lifetime. There is a difference between having money and being like truly, truly wealthy. And I know because I've met these people, I've worked with them and for these people. So when people like say, hey, check out my Lamborghini, hey, cool, I'm glad, that's nice. But man, that is nothing like, you know, the kind of money that like the people at Diageo have, or the people at RNDC
they
have.
go out of their way to buy cheaper cars. They don't want to get kidnapped.
Yes.
Let's do this quick super chat. We'll do the announcement and then we'll wrap up because we're kind of pushing past 90 here. So Rip Mama, thanks for the super chat. He says, can killer instinct consumer drive be developed, or is it natural? For some, it can be natural, but for most, you have to develop it. You're going to have to do the work. Really
military. I joined it as a C student. I left it as an A student between my 2 degrees. So yes, you can develop it. You just have to do it.
I learned how to develop the killer instinct when I was fencing. I had gone for when you start fencing, you start out with foil and they teach you the basics and here's how you do your moves and stuff like that. And I didn't have the patience for me being patient, right? I didn't have the patience for foil. So I moved on to like fencing épée and saber. And when I got into saber, I had a mentor, had an instructor, a guy from Belgium. He told me exactly what I just said a minute ago. He says, you need to have the eye of the tiger. You need to have that killer instinct. You need to develop that because you don't want to just tickle the guy. You want to actually hurt the guy. You want to find, and you have to be comfortable with hurting another person. And I don't think 80% of guys are beta. They're uncomfortable being hurt themselves and hurting someone else, intentionally hurting someone else. Now, when fencing, you're not actually supposed to hurt somebody, but you have the intent, the drive, whatever your chi is. I don't know what the fuck they call it in martial arts, but whatever that drive is, that thing, most people never find that. They never get to that point.
All right, guys.
I think you have to start. I think you have to start and then wait till the momentum kicks in. Yeah. You know,
well, you get to drive when you're good at something.
You need some wins discover it. You need some obvious wins.
Well, you need some obvious wins, but you will discover that when you are in a life or death situation. It's like the Incredible Hulk, right? You know, suddenly you Hulk up because you realize if you don't lift
ideally
the car
you want the
off
skill
of the
before
baby,
the life or death situation, though.
It's better if you develop it first, but like you want to get familiar with it. And what do a lot of people do? Like when they are in a life or death situation, or they've been in like a active shooter or something like that. Those people, like, gun sales go up. Everybody goes and gets their CCWs. Everybody goes out and does stuff. And what motivated them? Well, they were in a situation where if they didn't have that killer instinct, they needed to find a way to develop it.
I'll just say real quick, when I was 27, that's when I started learning body language. That's when I really dived into body language. And now it's like, sometimes it's like overwhelming. It's like one of the reddest pills you can ever take. Like, you can't unsee the shit. But it was a skill I learned, someone considered later in life.
All right. So with that being said, we're going to wrap it up. We got a big announcement. I'm just going to hit in a second.
Yeah, big announcement.
Real quick. I just want to hit the channel sponsors. So this Tactical Soap, the ticker's been going on the bottom. I should also mention it's coopersoap.com. You can check out, or pinned in the top comment. There's also another sponsor to the channel. AlphaFit.fit has supplements and programs for guys over 35 that want to get their energy and swagger back. So if that's of interest to you in self-care, check that out. So big announcement. We've been talking about doing something in a collaboration, live and in person. I have a business retreat for guys on my entrepreneurs tier in my private community forum, and we're doing that in April. It's mid-April. I'm not going to give away the dates publicly or location. What I will say is it's in one of North America's top 10 destinations. So what we're planning to do, I just put it out to Rollo and the gang here, and they said, yeah, that's really interesting. Rollo's booked to come down for a few days that weekend, so he's going to be there. The other guys, we talked before we went live, and it looks like they're planning to join us as well. So here's what the plan is. If you guys want to get together with us, we're going to do a workshop. We'll call it a one-day workshop, intensive one-day workshop at this location, and it's not available to the public. If you want to get in on it, you're going to have to approach us from our private community. So there's either patrons or there's John's, Modern Life Dating, body language community. I've got my own community. Troy, do you have one as well that you can post in the chat, or can they DM you?
I've got a Patreon actually, so I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, so guys, if you want to post your patrons in the chat right now, go ahead and do that. But the details will be given to you there. I've already got the event created on my men's community on the membership tab. So this is an announcement to you guys as well. This is totally available to you. You're already in there. If you want to get in on it, here, I'll post my join link.
They can find me. It'd feel weird to poach your guys from my guys.
Whatever. I mean, like whoever you follow, join in with whoever it is that you prefer. So join my community. I'll just put that there.
Sorry, there's another big manosphere brand that's had a fall from grace. I want to poach some of their members first.
Yeah, do that. All right. So
clerks of the world, unite.
That's my community link. It's $45 a month, or you can save 2 months if you pay for the annual membership. You get all the premium content, premium videos, live Q&As. It's all explained there, so check it out. But the information to come down for this event will be provided there on the events tab once you get in. So check that out. It's only for serious players. It's not going to be a cheap event where it's like $100 to get in, and at the same time, it's not going to be expensive either. But it's going to be very exclusive.
Ain't going to be no $2,000.
Yeah, it's going to be very exclusive. It's going to be a very tight-knit event, and it's going to be at a very, very dope location. Again, we're not going to mention where it is just yet. So if you want in, join the community, and then you'll find the information there. You can DM any one of us to get more info on how that's going to go down. What are you guys doing right now for the upcoming week, and what's been going on for you before we wrap up? So Troy, I'll go with you first because you did a cool interview with Tristan.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I did an interview last week actually, or this week actually, on Thursday with Tristan Tate, which is really good. We were chatting for 2 hours about his elite Playboy lifestyle. So and he's got a lot of interesting stuff to say. I mean, he knows a lot about the global sexual marketplace, dating marketplace, but also his business stuff as well. So yeah, basically go to my YouTube channel. So go to YouTube, search for Troy Francis, check out my YouTube channel, watch the video on there. It's really, really interesting. I had a great chat with him. He's had some awesome stuff to say, some great insights. And do hit subscribe on my channel while you're down there, because I'm putting out loads of content. I've got a podcast coming up Monday and then other videos coming up this week. So yeah, YouTube is the main place to follow me, really. Also, as always, Renegade Dating Blueprint, my pack of 11 books about dating and game and so on. You can get that. The link is on my YouTube underneath each of the videos. So do go and check that out.
All right, Ryan, fire away.
Oh, man. So the book, last chapter is at the editor. It's coming back, then it's going out. Keep in the loop on that one. Patreon guys are going to find that. Finally got our private forums and community up and running. Shit is mint. You guys are going to love it. Once you're in on Patreon, and if you get in now before Patreon takes its monthly thing, you don't have to wait the 30 days. And you can get straight in there. We're talking the stuff that'll get you banned from social media, full-on field reports, full-on actionable work, the stuff that feminists would love to see. We're actually talking about all of that. Not only that, we talk a lot about red pill stuff from dozens of authors, hundreds of different places, tens of years, distilled all into a single place. So no longer do you have to be an internet detective to actually find out what we're talking about half the time. That's awesome. It's going to be there. The book's coming through there. If you haven't been to the channel, you're missing out, man. I had a married red pill guy who was actually a video editor and a filmographer tear my ass open for like 3 straight days. And the production quality value of my stuff has gone up immeasurably since then. So none of this webcamming from the inside of my Honda Civic talking about hypergamy where you can see Rolo's book in the mirror. No, we're talking real content, real quality, real value. Not only be fucking your wife inside of 6 weeks, but you're actually going to be doing it while you have something on TV you can actually watch. So check out the channel. Trust me, you're not going to be disappointed. And the live stream we just had for our morning show before this one, new challengers come into the space. Followed Rich's advice of getting rid of the useless people from your life. He's been in the red pill for forever, and he's gone out to do his own thing, Red Pill Finance. We just had the live stream. Go check his stuff out in his channel. Just new, just got started. It's awesome. One of these days, he's going to put in that work. He and Rich are going to be talking business, finance. It's going to be absolutely epic. So check out all this stuff. Just get in there, and I don't know how to sell it worse than that. I don't know.
Cool.
It's
John.
great. Just do it.
John, fire away, man.
My community's closed off. Nobody can get inside. I'm deciding what's going to happen next. Dude Party is on after this. We're going to be talking about all of these like crazy ass feminists who are like Kobe Bryant hasn't even been dead for like a month, and these people are already ripping into him, and like it just shows you like the vicious nature and like the outcome of what feminism is. So me, Corey, Abu American, any guys on here you want to come on the show, we're gonna be talking about how these psychotic wenches are like already going after Kobe Bryant and his family. Like, dude, it is. I'm still
What
in
are they, Stephen
denial.
Molyneux?
I'm still in denial that like he's dead, and like I just can't believe it. I just can't believe that he's dead, and you know it was so unfortunate that you know his little girl died with him too. So the fact like they're just like not letting his family grieve and stuff, it's just really sickening, and it just shows you like this is like what is happening in America right now. So we're going to be talking about that. That's it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm taking a break this week though. I've been going hard since November, so I'll be back on Friday. But Dude Party's the last broadcast I'll be doing until next Friday. So if you want to come on over, do it. And just a little quick, I told you so with Bitcoin at $9,400. Kobe.
Rolo, what have you been up to?
Oh man. Okay, so let's see. Last Wednesday, I thought was a pretty good yeoman's work on my podcast. I was talking about, like I said earlier, bless you, how you can you or can you not satisfy a woman, or should you even bother satisfying a woman? I went for about 2 hours and 20 minutes, and it was pretty good. I think people gave me a lot of positive feedback on it. So if you haven't seen that, you can go check out the broadcast on my channel. Tomorrow, speaking of my channel, I will be on Red Pill 101, Rational Male 101, whatever you want to call it. I'll be doing it solo again. Pat Campbell is still incapacitated, or he's recovering. I mean, the guy had brain surgery, so let's just give him a few weeks here. So yeah, and he's been taking some time off of his own show and all that because he's recovering. So I will be solo tomorrow. What I'm planning on talking about is kind of what's going on with Jeff Bezos and what was it, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I see a lot of similarities in those two because you're looking at two guys who are very, well, you know, affluent guys, obviously, have some celebrity and are still suffering from a blue pill mindset. And one of the things that they do, as well as another certain as well as another fat, non-celebrity guy that has been in our Twitter feeds for a while. What these guys, pizza, yeah. Well, you should, and that's another thing. You guys should really go check out John's channel with regards to DDJ. But what guys tend to do is they try to rationalize their way into bed. They try to reason their way into bed. They try to negotiate. And I've talked about negotiating desire since day one, since like the very first post I ever put up on the Rational Male. And a lot of guys will say, well, what does that mean? What does negotiating desire mean? Right. And I think a lot of people think that it's just like sort of pussy begging or whatever. And it's like, there's so many different ways that guys can try to negotiate. And why is it that a blue pill mindset automatically defaults to reasoning or appeals to reason or appeals to negotiation? Why is it that men are trying to solve their reproductive problem with their deductive logic and why women don't respond to that. So that's what I'm going to be getting into tomorrow. I think it's going to be a pretty hot show. So
Cool.
check that out. I am not this week, but next week on you guys won't. I'll let you guys know when this happens, but I'm going to go on the podcast with Suzanne Venker probably
Cool.
on February 10th. So watch for that. It won't be a live stream. It'll be recorded, but it'll probably come out like the day after. So look for it around February 11th, February 12th. So I'm going to talk with her. I think we probably agree on about 90% of things. I think that I'm going to rattle her cage with the other 10%, but she's a nice gal. So I'll talk to her. This is me branching out again, guys. So
Cool.
there you have it.
A little bit of a branch into different areas, always fun. Yeah, so real quick again, I just posted Troy's Patreon. Here's mine again in the chat if you want to get in the community again. A lot of you guys are like, well, how do I network with higher value men? How do I up my value? Join a community of men chasing excellence. That's mine. You can get into it. There's a cost. It's behind a paywall for a reason because people have to have skin in the game. You got to put your money where your mouth is. I don't like assholes. I like real people that do work. So
we're probably going to have some sort of page or something dedicated to like just information about it. I think remember, this is kind of low key. This is just something that we just put together, and we think that we'll want to invite other people.
Get in there. If you're my community guys, it's on the events. What's that?
You won't see us on a morning show plugging it,
No,
basically.
Yeah. It won't be on Piers Morgan.
No, mine's on the events tab of the private Facebook page, so you can check it out there. The details are for members only. So what's coming up this week for me? Monday, I got Before the Train Wreck with Rollo Tomasi and Sean Smith on the hypergamy debate, which we kind of got into a little bit about 4 weeks ago with Dr. Robert Glover, Dr. Sean Smith, and myself. And we were talking about hypergamy, and they were like, I don't really see it in my practice, in my clinical practice. And I was, okay, this is a better conversation to bring Rollo in, but I held my own at the time. But we're going to get into that full on this Monday. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then later on that week, I've got another episode of Playing to Win at 8 p.m. On Thursday. I don't have the date, but Thursday with a guy that's a fairly young, very successful entrepreneur. He's a bit of a Chad as well. So you guys should enjoy that one as far as the Playing to Win concept. So hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Smash the like button, share it with somebody that needs to see it. If you want to know when these shows happen, join the Rule Zero Facebook page. I posted it earlier in the chat. I'm not going to dig it up again, but you can request to join there because we always set up the events usually a day or two before, and it tells you what channel it's going to be broadcasted on. So we'll see you guys in the next broadcast. Peace out.